The sun hung high in the sky, casting dappled light through the leaves of the towering trees surrounding our little sanctuary. The treehouse, nestled between two enormous oaks, creaked slightly as I climbed the rickety wooden ladder, a familiar thrill coursing through me. I could hear Lucas's laughter echoing up from inside. He was already there, probably rummaging through the old toys our father had left behind. "Clara, you won't believe what I found," Lucas shouted, his voice full of excitement. "What is it this time?" I grinned, stepping into the small, sunlit space. The treehouse smelled of aged wood and adventure, an intoxicating mix of nostalgia and freedom. "This!" He held up a dusty, worn-out action figure, its paint chipped and faded. "Dad used to play with this when he was our age." I giggled, taking the toy from him. I remember him telling us about those epic battles he had with his friends up here. He said they would pretend to be pirates and fight for treasure. Lucas's eyes sparkled. "Let's pretend we're pirates too. We can defend our treasure from the evil sea monsters." We'll protect our gold with our lives," I laughed, striking a ridiculous pirate pose. We spent the next hour lost in our imaginations, our laughter blending with the soft rustling of leaves. The world beyond our treehouse seemed to fade away, leaving only the vibrant colors of our childhood dreams. But as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting longer shadows, a slight chill crept into the air. "Hey Clara, look at this," Lucas called out, crouching on the floor. I turned to see him pointing at an unusual pattern in the wooden floorboards. It was a strange design, almost like a spiral etched into the grain. "Where did that come from?" I asked, kneeling beside him. "I don't remember seeing that before." "Maybe it's a treasure map," Lucas exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. "Or a secret code." I felt a surge of curiosity. "Let's check it out. Maybe there's something hidden underneath." I began to push on the floorboards, but they seemed firmly in place. "Let me help," Lucas chimed in, and together we pried at the edges. Just then, the wind outside picked up, rattling the treehouse and sending a shiver down my spine. "Did you hear that?" I asked, glancing at the window. The sky had turned a stormy gray, and distant thunder rolled, rumbling ominously. "It's just the wind. Come on, we can't give up now." He was relentless, and with one final shove, the floorboard creaked and shifted. Suddenly, the air grew heavy, and a low rumble echoed beneath us, sending a bolt of apprehension through my heart. "Lucas, what was that?" "I don't know, but it sounded like it came from below us," he whispered, his bravado wavering. Just then, the first drops of rain began to patter against the roof, quickening in intensity. "We should probably stay inside until the storm passes," I suggested, glancing nervously at the window as the trees swayed violently in the wind. But before we could settle back into our game, another loud clap of thunder shook the treehouse, followed by a strange noise that seemed to pulse from the very floor beneath us, a low, almost guttural sound. "What was that?" I exchanged worried glances with Lucas, my heart racing. "I think we should check it out," he said, his adventurous spirit ignited despite the fear creeping into his voice. "Are you sure? It might just be the storm." "No, Clara. What if it's something important? We can't leave without knowing." With a deep breath, I nodded, feeling the thrill of the unknown tugging at my courage. "Okay, let's do it together." We both knelt down, our hands trembling slightly as we continued to push against the floorboards. The storm raged outside, but our focus was entirely on the mystery below, unaware that what lay beneath was far more terrifying than we could ever imagine. With our hearts pounding in sync with the thunder above, Lucas and I knelt beside the floorboards that now felt like a gateway to a world unknown. The strange noise from beneath us had quieted, but the air was thick with an unsettling tension. I glanced at Lucas, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement, the dim light filtering through the rain-soaked windows, flickering ominously. "Do you think we should?" I whispered, my voice barely audible over the patter of rain. He bit his lip, glancing at the trapdoor we had pushed aside. "What if it's dangerous? Or what if it's an adventure?" I countered, my curiosity igniting a spark of bravery within me. "It could be something amazing. Or it could be a monster." Lucas's voice trembled slightly, but I could see the glimmer of intrigue in his eyes. I knew he wanted to explore just as much as I did. "Let's just look," I urged, my hands trembling as I reached for the trapdoor handle. I took a deep breath and pulled it open. The hinges creaked ominously, echoing in the silence of the treehouse as it revealed a spiral staircase leading down into darkness. "Wow," Lucas breathed, peering over my shoulder. "It looks deep." "Are you ready?" I asked, my heart racing with both fear and excitement. He hesitated but then straightened his back, determination flashing in his gaze. "Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this." I took a step onto the first rung, instantly feeling a chill seep through my skin. The air was thick and heavy, and the smell of sulfur wafted up from below, making my stomach churn. "This is so weird," I muttered, feeling the weight of the darkness pressing against us. "Maybe we should have brought a flashlight," Lucas said, his voice echoing eerily in the narrow confines of the staircase. "Good idea. Let's just go a little way down, and I'll use my phone for light." I pulled out my phone and switched on the flashlight, the beam slicing through the darkness. As we descended, the spiral staircase seemed to twist and turn endlessly. Each step we took resonated like a heartbeat in the quiet, and I could feel the cold wrapping around us like a shroud. "Clara, hold on," Lucas said suddenly, gripping my arm tightly. "What if we can't get back?" I could feel a shiver crawl up my spine, but I didn't want to show my fear. "We will. We just have to be careful." I tried to sound confident, but even I could hear the tremor in my voice. Finally, we reached the bottom, stepping onto solid ground. The cavernous underground space around us was unlike anything I had ever seen. Shadows danced along the walls, and eerie whispers echoed like a chilling wind. My pulse quickened as I took in the sight. "Do you hear that?" Lucas whispered, his breath hitching. I nodded, straining to catch the whispers that floated through the air. They were disjointed, almost like a chorus of lost souls. "It sounds like voices," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "Let's get out of here," Lucas urged, taking a small step back. "Wait," I said, feeling an inexplicable pull towards the darkness ahead. "What if there's something interesting? We can't turn back now." He hesitated, glancing around nervously. "But Clara, what if it's dangerous? We don't know what's down here." "Exactly. That's why we have to find out." There was something exhilarating about the unknown, and I felt my adventurous spirit urging me forward. "Come on, Lucas. Just a little further." With a reluctant sigh, he followed me deeper into the cavern, the whispers growing louder, almost as if they were beckoning us closer. Each step seemed to drain the warmth from my body, and I could feel the fear creeping in like shadows at dusk. "Clara, I really don't like this," Lucas said, his voice trembling slightly. "Neither do I admitted, "but we can't let fear stop us. We need to see what's going on." Just then, a gust of cold air swept through the cavern, and I shivered violently, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. The shadows flickered, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw something moving in the corners of my vision. "Did you see that?" I asked, my heart racing. Lucas nodded, eyes wide. "I did. What was that?" As we pressed forward, the whispers morphed into a cacophony of voices, layering over one another, creating a sound that was both haunting and mesmerizing. I could feel the darkness wrapping around us, and despite the fear gnawing at my insides, I knew we had to go on. The air was thick, with an unsettling energy, as Clara and Lucas ventured deeper into the cavern, their hearts pounding in sync with the echoing whispers that seemed to emanate from the very walls. Shadows flitted just beyond the reach of their vision. Grotesque forms that watched them with a hunger that sent chills racing down their spines. "Clara, are you sure we should keep going?" Lucas asked, clutching the edge of his shirt tightly. His voice trembled slightly, betraying the fear that lurked within him. "I don't know, but I feel like we have to. We can't just turn back now," Clara replied, her voice steady despite the unease crawling up her back. She took a deep breath, trying to push through the dread that was wrapping around her like a thick fog. "There has to be something here, something important." As they moved further into the darkness, the shapes around them began to form into more recognizable figures, twisted, contorted beings with eyes that glowed like embers. They seemed to pulse with an otherworldly light, their features grotesque and horrifying. Lucas's grip on Clara's arm tightened. "Look at them," he whispered, eyes wide. "They're watching us." "I know," Clara replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But we can't let them scare us. We just need to find out what's going on." Suddenly, they stumbled into a large chamber, its floor covered in dark symbols that twisted and writhed like living creatures. In the center stood an altar, ancient and foreboding, adorned with more of those dark symbols. Clara felt an inexplicable pull towards it, as if it were calling her name. "Clara, wait, don't go near it!" Lucas shouted, panic rising in his throat. "We don't know what it is." But Clara, mesmerized by the altar, took a step forward. "I can't help it, Lucas. It feels important. Important, it looks dangerous. Please, just come back." His voice was urgent, the fear in it palpable. Ignoring her brother's plea, Clara approached the altar, her hand outstretched. The air hummed with energy, and she could feel the weight of something ancient pressing down on her. As her fingers brushed against the cold stone, a tremor rippled through the ground beneath them. "Clara!" Lucas yelled as the chamber shook violently, the shadows swirling around them in a chaotic dance. A deep voice, rumbling like thunder, echoed through the chamber, reverberating in their bones. "Leave this place before it is too late." It was a warning, filled with a power that made the very air around them vibrate. Clara froze, her hand just inches from the altar, heart racing. "Who are you?" she shouted, trying to fight through the fear that gripped her heart. "What do you want from us? Child of the light, this is not your realm. Turn back while you still can," the voice boomed, sending a wave of icy dread coursing through her. "Clara, we need to go." Lucas tugged at her arm, panic rising in his voice. "Now!" She hesitated, torn between the allure of the altar and the need to escape. The shadows around them grew thicker, and the grotesque figures seemed to inch closer, their eyes glinting with malicious intent. "Lucas, I can't just leave. There's something here we need to understand," Clara insisted, her voice rising above the chaos. "Understand what? That we're in a nightmare? That we're not safe here?" Lucas's eyes darted around, his breath quickening. "This isn't a game, Clara. We could get trapped." The ground shook again, and the voice echoed through the chamber, growing more insistent. "Leave before it consumes you." With a sudden clarity, Clara pulled her hand back, the urge to touch the altar wavering. Okay, I'm coming," she yelled, her heart racing as she turned to Lucas. "Let's go." But as they turned to flee, the shadows surged forward, their forms twisting into something more menacing. Clara felt a chill grip her heart, and she instinctively clutched Lucas's arm tighter. "Run," she shouted, and together they sprinted toward the chamber's exit, the echoes of the deep voice trailing behind them like a warning, a reminder that the darkness was still watching, waiting for the moment to strike. Panic surged through me as I stared into the depths of the cavern, my heart pounding like a war drum. Shadows flickered along the walls, twisting and writhing with a life of their own. "Lucas," I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. "We're not alone." He stood frozen beside me, his eyes wide with fear. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice trembling. Before I could respond, dark figures began to materialize from the shadows, their forms indistinct but palpable. They were tormented souls, their faces contorted in anguish, their mouths moving silently as if begging for release from an eternal torment. I felt a chill race down my spine, and I instinctively grabbed Lucas's arm, pulling him closer. "Clara," he hissed, panic creeping into his tone. "What do we do?" I didn't have an answer. My mind raced, trying to recall our father's stories about the forest, tales filled with wonder and adventure, but nothing could prepare us for this nightmare. The air thickened with despair, and the whispers grew louder, wrapping around us like a suffocating blanket. "Join us," one of the figures moaned, its voice like gravel scraping against stone. "Embrace your fears. It's the only way to be free." I felt a shudder pass through me. The shadows were feeding on our dread, using our fears against us. Lucas's breath quickened as the whispers intensified, each word striking a nerve, pulling at our insecurities and regrets. "Clara, we have to get out of here," he shouted, his voice rising above the cacophony. "Right. We can't let them get to us," I replied, trying to sound more confident than I felt. But as I spoke, I could see the torment etched on the faces of the lost souls, and it terrified me. They were trapped and their pain was palpable, a heavy weight pressing down on us. "Your father abandoned you," another figure hissed, its eyes glowing with malice. "He left you to wander these woods alone, unprotected. You'll never escape this place, just like he didn't." "No," I screamed, clutching my head in my hands, the words slicing through me like knives. "That's not true. He loved us." Lucas shook his head, his expression desperate. "They're lying, Clara. We have to keep moving." We turned to flee, but the creatures blocked our path, their outstretched hands reaching for us, whispering our darkest fears in a haunting chorus. "You're not strong enough. You'll never be good enough." I felt hot tears prick at my eyes, and I fought against the despair clawing at my heart. "Lucas, we can't let them win," I cried. "We have to remember who we are." "Clara, look," he shouted, pointing toward my backpack. In the chaos, I had almost forgotten about it. "Maybe there's something in there we can use." I fumbled through it, my hands trembling. Suddenly, my fingers brushed against the cool metal of a flashlight. My heart raced with a glimmer of hope. "This!" I exclaimed, pulling it out. "Do you think it will work?" Lucas asked, his eyes darting nervously to the encroaching shadows. "Light is stronger than darkness," I recalled our father's words, a fragment of comfort amidst the terror. With shaking hands, I turned the flashlight on, filling the cavern with a warm glow. A wave of relief washed over me as the creatures recoiled, their forms twisting back into the shadows. "Get back," I shouted, my voice steadying. "You can't have us." The light illuminated the cavern, revealing their grotesque features contorted in rage. For a moment, I felt invincible, the power of the light pushing back the darkness that had surrounded us. Lucas stood beside me, eyes wide with amazement. "Clara, it's working," he exclaimed, a smile breaking through his fear. But the darkness was relentless, and I could hear the whispers growing louder, more insistent. "You think a mere flashlight can save you? You are fools to believe in light." I gripped the flashlight tighter, focused on its beam, willing it to shine brighter. "We are not afraid," I shouted, my voice rising above the chaos. Yet, despite our efforts, I could feel the shadows coiling around us, threatening to snuff out our light. "We have to find a way out of here, Lucas," I urged, desperation clawing at my throat. "Let's go this way." He pointed toward a narrow passage that seemed less engulfed by the shadows. As we moved, the flashlight's beam flickered, and I felt a surge of panic. "No, no, no," I cried, shaking it. "Stay on, please. Just keep moving," Lucas urged, his voice filled with determination. We pressed forward, the light illuminating the path ahead, but the darkness was always there, lurking just out of sight, whispering our fears and doubts. The deeper we went, the more I felt the weight of despair pressing against us, but I clung to the light, determined not to let it go out. "Clara," Lucas said, glancing back at me, his face pale. "What if we can't find a way out?" "We will," I insisted, though doubt gnawed at me. "We have to believe." But as we moved through the shadows, I could feel the weight of the darkness closing in, and my heart raced with the fear that this might truly be the end. The dark corridors twisted around us, the faint light from my flashlight flickering as if it were as terrified as we were. Each step seemed to echo, the sound swallowed by the overwhelming silence that hung in the air. I could feel Lucas by my side, his presence a comforting weight, even as the world around us felt alive, shifting and breathing. My heart raced, not just from fear but from a strange sense of urgency that propelled us deeper into this hellish labyrinth. "Clara, do you think we'll ever find a way out?" Lucas whispered, his voice barely audible against the oppressive quiet. I don't know," I admitted, trying to keep the tremor from my voice. "But we have to keep going. We can't let whatever is down here get to us." The walls around us were damp and cold, and as we moved, I noticed symbols etched into the stone. They twisted and curled like vines, but one symbol stood out among the rest. It was unmistakably our family crest, an intricate design that had been passed down through generations, now tainted by the darkness surrounding it. "Lucas, look!" I pointed, my breath hitching in my throat as I stepped closer to examine it. "This is our family crest. What does it mean? Why is it here?" He joined me at the wall, his brow furrowing as he traced the symbols with his fingers. "I don't know, but it's like we're connected to this place somehow." A chill ran through me at the thought. Connected? In what way? Before he could answer, the ground beneath us trembled slightly, and I could hear a low growl rumbling in the distance. It was a sound that sent a jolt of fear through my veins. "We need to move," Lucas urged, pulling me along. We turned a corner, and that's when we saw it, a monstrous figure looming in the shadows, its eyes glowing with a sinister light. "Who dares to trespass in this domain?" the figure boomed, its voice reverberating off the walls like thunder. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. "What are you?" I managed to stammer, my voice barely above a whisper. I am of your bloodline, it growled, stepping forward into the dim light. Its form was grotesque, a twisted version of a human with features that hinted at a past long forgotten. Your ancestor, bound to this cursed place for generations. Why are you here? What do you want from us? Lucas asked, his voice steadier than mine, but I could see the fear in his eyes. You are the last of your line, and it is time for you to understand the legacy you carry, the creature said, its eyes narrowing. This realm is tied to your family, and you have the power to either embrace the darkness or defy it. I exchanged a glance with Lucas, a sense of dread pooling in my stomach. What do you mean? We don't want anything to do with this place. The figure laughed, a chilling sound that echoed in the dark. You cannot escape it. The darkness feeds on fear, and it knows your weaknesses. You must choose, accept your fate, or fight against it. A wave of anger surged through me. We're not afraid of you. We'll find our way out of here. Is that so? It retorted, a wicked grin spreading across its face. Then prove it. The darkness will test your strength, your will, and your bond as siblings. Only then can you hope to escape this nightmare. I felt a surge of determination. We'll never give in, I shouted, my voice stronger now, fueled by a fierce protectiveness for Lucas. Very well, the figure hissed, stepping back into the shadows. The choice is yours, but remember, the darkness is always watching. As it faded from view, I turned to Lucas, my heart racing. What do we do now? I don't know, but we can't let it break us, he replied, gripping my hand tightly. Together, we took a deep breath and pressed forward, the flickering light guiding us deeper into the unknown. The air felt charged, alive with tension, and I knew that whatever lay ahead would test us in ways we could never imagine. But we were bound by blood, by our shared resolve, and together we could face whatever darkness awaited us. As I stood there, trembling in the cavern's eerie gloom, the monstrous figure before us loomed large, its shadow swallowing the dim light from my flashlight. You are my descendants, it boomed, its voice echoing like thunder through the hollow space, bound to this realm by a curse that has plagued our family for generations. My heart raced, adrenaline coursing through my veins as I glanced sideways at Lucas. His eyes were wide with fear, mirroring my own. What do you want from us? I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. The figure's face twisted into a grotesque smile, revealing sharp teeth that glinted ominously in the darkness. You have a choice, Clara and Lucas. Embrace the darkness that courses through your blood, or find the courage to fight against it. Only one path will lead you to freedom. Lucas stepped forward, his voice steady despite the terror that gripped me. We won't give in to you. We've fought too hard to get this far. The resolve in his voice surprised me. He was right. We had come too far to let fear dictate our fate. As the specter's form flickered in and out of existence, I could feel the weight of our family's history pressing down on us. What if we choose to fight? I asked, my palms sweaty as I clasped Lucas's hand tightly. What happens then? You may awaken the darkness within. This realm is alive with it, and it will retaliate, the ancestor warned, his eyes narrowing. But if you succeed, you will break the curse that binds you and your ancestors to this place. My mind raced as I processed the enormity of what was at stake. The thought of succumbing to the darkness was terrifying, yet the idea of fighting against it filled me with an unfamiliar strength. Lucas, I said, gripping his hand tighter, we can do this together. We have to believe in each other. He nodded, determination flashing in his eyes. Together, he echoed, and a surge of warmth surged through me. At that moment, I felt the weight of our bond, a tether stronger than any darkness could sever. Channel your love and light. It is the only thing that can overcome the shadows, the figure instructed, its voice a mixture of disdain and curiosity. The cavern seemed to pulse around us, the walls trembling in response to our rising emotions. I closed my eyes, envisioning the moments that had shaped us, our laughter in the treehouse, shared secrets and dreams. We refuse to let this darkness define us, I declared. And as I opened my eyes, I saw a flicker of light emanating from the place where our hands were joined. Hold on, Lucas shouted, and as if the very earth had heard him, the ground beneath us began to shake violently. The walls of the cavern crumbled, sending dust and debris tumbling down around us. Clara, he yelled, panic rising in his voice. Stay with me. I cried out, focusing on the light that grew brighter with each heartbeat. We can do this. We stood our ground, the warmth of our connection pushing back against the encroaching darkness. The cave screamed in protest, shadows swirling like angry clouds, but we held on tighter, our hearts synchronized in defiance of the chaos. Suddenly, the entire cavern began to collapse. "It's too late," the ancestor howled, its form flickering wildly. But I didn't believe it. I couldn't. "Keep holding on," I shouted, squeezing Lucas's hand as the very fabric of the underground tore apart around us. "We're almost there." Just as the darkness threatened to engulf us entirely, a blinding light erupted from our hands. "No," the figure screamed. And in that moment, everything went. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying on the wooden floor of the treehouse, the sun streaming through the open windows. The storm had passed, and the world outside was peaceful once more. I blinked, disoriented, the remnants of the underground still echoing in my mind like a distant nightmare. "Lucas?" I called, sitting up quickly. My heart raced as I searched for him. "Are you okay?" He sat across from me, a look of disbelief etched on his face. I think we're back," he stammered, glancing around as if expecting the cavern to reappear at any moment. "Was that real?" I whispered, the weight of our experience hanging heavily in the air. Lucas met my gaze, his expression a mixture of relief and concern. "I don't know, but I feel like something has changed. Like we're not alone anymore." The shadows of the treehouse felt different now, somehow more alive. I shivered, glancing toward the trapdoor, half expecting it to open again. "Do you think the darkness is still out there?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Maybe it is," he replied cautiously, "but we're stronger now. We faced it together." With a newfound sense of determination blossoming in my chest, I nodded. "Together," I repeated, but a lingering doubt remained. What if the darkness was just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to strike?